the United Nations is good. Louis Pasteur, Founder of Bacteriology, by John Mann. The Truth About Chernobyl, Grigory Medvedev. I watched a documentary recently on Google. A couple of them actually I watched. And turns out Chernobyl was just, you know, it was a disaster that could have been averted by the people who carried it out, but they were Soviet apparatchiks. Teaching Children Responsibility, Linda and Richard Eyre. I didn't get this to know more about teaching children responsibility. I got this so that I can know what kind of crap people are saying about it is wrong. Giving emergency care competently, just a basic nursing thing. We the People, the Meaning of the Constitution. I thought this might be good to get a this or that quote out of it, elaborations if they're useful, on an upcoming video on the Constitution Revised Edition, which I just happen to have right there on top of my podium. The Story of America. I think it's Time Life's Reader's Digest Association. I mean, for 75 cents, why not? It's got little blurbs about the Wright brothers, Alexander Graham Bell. You know, it's a good book, Reader's Digest or not. Russia Besieged, World War II, Time Life books. Lots of pictures. That's why I like these. Easy to read, lots of pictures. Good books. The Rising Sun, it's about Japan in World War II, Time Life series. Time Frame 80, 1925 to 1950, Shadow of the Dictators, Storm Clouds Over Europe, The World at War, Independence for India, and the Struggle in China. The First Horsemen, the history of the horse and mankind. Just some archaeological facts and stuff about it. 20th Century, Great Ages of Man. I've got several books about the Great Ages of Man. I didn't have the 20th century. The Greeks, the Romans, the Renaissance, Victorian era. So that's good to add that one to it. Here's an interesting one. Extremist Groups Opposing Viewpoints, from Greenhaven Press. This looked like to me it could have been right out of the United Nations publishing house to propagate the agenda of dictatorships and terrorists. But it doesn't look like that. It looks pretty good. For example, Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech or the press. First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The basic foundation of our democracy is the First Amendment, guarantee of freedom of expression. The Opposing Viewpoints series, this book series, is dedicated to the concept of this basic freedom and the idea that it is more important to practice it than to enshrine it. 2001. Chapter 1, Does Religious Fundamentalism Benefit Society? And it starts off with a quote from John Stuart Mill. Not bad company to have at all. So we'll take a look at that. Matthew Arnold, Selected Poems, edited by Clifford Diamond. I don't know who Matthew Arnold is, but this little teeny book, 50 pages, starts off with a 13-page introduction explaining this book, and explaining that not so long ago the Victorian age and all of its works were regarded with amusement or with scorn. Plays had no need of wit. It was enough to give men whiskers and women fainting fits for them to be considered uproariously funny. The painters of the period were dismissed as sentimentalists, musicians as insipid. The writers were considered variously to be languid, stuffy, materialistic, pious. Now, however, the pendulum is well advanced on its return swing. The Victorian age is far enough distant for us to be able to view it more or less objectively, and even to take pleasure in its musicians and writers without incurring the derision, blah, 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 blah. So, that's what that's about. Voltaire, Candide. I think this is the one where he finishes. Oh, it's Erasmus who says, I have to go tend to my garden. Oh no, it is this one. 'Tis well, said Candide, but we must cultivate our gardens. Balzac, Stefan Zweig, or Stefan Zweig by Balzac. Triumph and Tragedy by Winston Churchill. History of the Second World War. Winston, get out of there. Hey! He really wants to know what's inside that camera and why I keep talking to it. The Closing of the American Mind. How higher education has failed democracy and impoverished the souls of today's students. That's right. The Rockefeller Billions. The Story of the World's Most Stupendous Fortune by Jules Abels. There it is. My raid on the local library. Look for my picture in the newspaper in St. George in the next couple of days.